Hello and welcome to the Rangers News YouTube channel. My name is Cameron Willis. Once again, I'm joined by James Black and Jordan Carlisle. In this video, we're going to preview the trip to Hamilton this weekend, kick off at 12 p.m. on Sunday. But before we do that, if you're watching and you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do it now. We are approaching 5k views. It will be a monumental moment when we achieve it. And if you're a Rangers fan and you're looking for Rangers content, then this is the place to be. So, yep, click like, click subscribe if you haven't already, and let's kind of get torn into it, lads. We go to Hamilton, who are bottom of the table. They've just been beaten 2-1 by Ross County, and Rangers loanee Steven Kelly scored an own goal, and then they turned it around late on. Ross County, who I think are kind of scrapping down there. I think it's 4 points ahead, but Hamilton have 2 games in hand on them. And yes, Hamilton are obviously the team that perennially managed to stay up against the odds, but this season is proven more difficult than kind of normal. So yeah, Rangers go there. We've got a good record there. Plastic pitch, potentially some poor weather. Jordan, what are you thinking about the match?
Yeah, I think it should be one where normally Brian Rice isn't keen to park the bus as such, especially at home. They like to actually play a bit of football, which is normally beneficial for Rangers, as it has been in sort of recent years with teams like Motherwell who want to get the ball down. It doesn't sort of tend to favour Rangers, and yeah, I think they lost a lot of players ahead of this season, and I thought it was going to be. Obviously, that's the crack, isn't it? Every year, everyone's like, "Oh, Hamilton will come bottom," then somehow they don't. This year, I just didn't see how they were going to get any sort of points total, and it looked like Rice was going to be out the door a couple of months ago. He sort of turned that around to an extent, but that was a poor defeat for them in the week. I think it's one where it's always dangerous when you're playing a team who are highly motivated, and that they've got to do something, and they've got to do it soon if they're going to get out of there, out of trouble. But in terms of the quality across the pitch, Rangers just have so much more. And obviously, a massive win at Ibrox earlier in the year against pretty much the same squad of players. So it should be one that's relatively straightforward.
What about you, James? What are you thinking ahead of the match?
Yeah, much like Jordan says, it's Hamilton's not a team who tend to kind of like to park the bus, and it's been a really hard season for them. I think keeping the core of their squad together at the end of the transfer window has been really important for them, though, because they're kind of largely down to the bare bones as it is, and bringing Bruce Anderson in from Aberdeen on loan is one that's quite intriguing when he's a player I really like, so it'll be interesting to see him at the weekend, but it should be a comfortable Rangers win. I'd expect maybe a couple of changes for the one over St Johnstone, but another step in the road to 55.
Yeah, Matt. But like you said, they're kind of play on the front foot and stuff, Hamilton. So it'd be interesting to see how they go for it. And they're in a relegation dogfight. They need all the points that they can get. But when you look back at that game, what was that last time we played them? The 8-0 victory. I think it was at Ibrox. I think completely dominated them. We made a range of substitutions in the match. They were completely shot and devoid of confidence. It's obviously a different setting this weekend, but Jordan, do you fancy us to steamroll them like that? Do you fancy a scoreline like that this weekend?
Probably not as dramatic as that. It's just Rangers' dominance at home makes things like that a lot more viable. Maybe I don't know. It's hard to predict going into it, but I mean they're not. They were at the stage early in the season, Hamilton, where it looked like they were lying down, and that was the thing, whether the players are actually playing for Rice anymore and that sort of stuff. That seems to have changed slightly, and they seem to have organised themselves a bit more. So I can't maybe see it that much, but maybe half of it, 4-0, something like that. I think it's something where no Morelos is obviously a factor. Whether Roof will be playing, we don't know. Stroke playing or available, we don't know. But so Rangers are down a little bit in that regard, and obviously still don't have Scott Arfield to call upon in terms of the late runs from midfield, but they still have a lot of quality around the squad and in that attacking area. And I think it's also a place where you could probably go and do the 4-2-3-1 and have your more advanced midfielder as well, rather than the bank of three, because in terms of the the level of threat that they're going to, in theory, pose on attack, you can maybe free up one of your midfielders a little bit more and be a bit more attacking.
There's obviously we made 2 signings, Scott Wright and Jack Simpson, at the on deadline day. Wright was on the bench against St Johnstone. James, do you fancy seeing either of these players actually involved against Hamilton?
I think we'll probably see Wright. I was actually surprised he didn't get off the bench against St Johnstone. Ryan Kent had been poor, and I think it would have made sense for me in a game that, I mean, the St Johnstone game looked well over, so I'd have probably given Wright 5-10 minutes just to get him in and just give him that first wee chance to play. This weekend, no, absolutely. I don't think he'll start, but I do think he'll come off the bench at some point and he'll get that chance. Simpson, on the other hand, I'm not quite so sure about. I think he will be the next game along the road against Kilmarnock. He'll probably come into contention.
Okay, so looking at the team for the match. Do you fancy many changes from the game against St Johnstone? We'll start with the defence first, Jordan. How do you think we're going to line up at the back?
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty similar. There's not a huge call for changes. The only thing I would say is obviously I think it's 3 in a row that the Highlanders played. There hasn't been massive runs for individual partners for Goldson over the season, and I think there's a couple of times the Highlanders looked a little bit clumsy on the plastic surfaces. So in terms of the distribution as well, in terms of his turning and stuff like that. The other thing is as well, though, that Balogun has a bit of history with injuries, so whether he wouldn't risk that regardless for something relatively minor. So I think that's the one potential Balogun coming in. I agree with James that Simpson will be a while yet, and Gerrard's made a few sort of token defensive changes like that. Like when Balogun came back from injury, he stuck him on for the last 20 minutes of the game, which you wouldn't really normally see at centre back, and gave Edmondson a go in that game at Motherwell earlier in the season when he ended up scoring an own goal in the last 15 minutes. So there's a possibility you could do something like that with Simpson, but yeah, probably it'd be the following weekend against Kilmarnock before that happens. So to have Goldson and Barisic, yeah, McGregor, yeah, and then we'll probably wait and see on the centre back.
What about in midfield, James? How do you think that we're going to line up there?
Yeah, I reckon I did think it'd maybe be the same 3 again from the St Johnstone game, but I think that with it being a plastic pitch, that it'll probably bring Glenn Kamara back into the side and kind of just look to rest. Probably Stephen Davis is a little bit. There's a lot of big games coming up. And Royal Antwerp's just a couple of weeks away, so it's going to be one where you don't really want to be putting players through the ringer where you don't need to. And Davis has played a lot of minutes recently. So I'd probably think Kamara will come back in and Jack and Joe Rebo alongside.
And I think maybe the biggest debate at the minute is probably whether or not Cedric Itten starts up front, because obviously Morelos is banned. Roof got a shot against St Johnstone. Gerrard touched in the pre-match presser for that, saying that both would get an opportunity. But I mean, whether he's clear that both would get an opportunity from the start, I don't know. But Jordan, does Itten start this match for you?
I think there's every chance that, I tell you what, I've said this a few times, that they're just the exact same words coming out of my mouth for multiple videos in a row, but I think he deserves to play, doesn't he? Like, I think everyone can sort of see that, and I'm sure Gerrard is also very well aware that he's got a guy he's paid money for, and that he's just not really been able to find ways into him into the team for one reason or another. But I think he sort of knows that he's going to need to give him a go at some point. And there's a few things that sort of work towards it happening. I think Roof wasn't great against St Johnstone. We don't know if there'll be some sort of disciplinary action coming out of that, whether it be available or not in the first place. But even if he is, it's plastic pitch. He's struggled in terms of injuries in the past. He's not long back from injury himself, and I think it's a sort of game where Itten can come in and ruffle a few feathers and also show his quality. I think it'd be his third start. I think he's only scored goals against Motherwell, and I think he's only started against Kilmarnock. He started against them home and away. So this would sort of give him a chance to change both of those things if he was given a start. with the two Kent and Hadji on either side. I think Hadji scored there earlier in the season. It was a bit of a tap-in. But he's basically undroppable, and obviously, as we've spoken about, it doesn't really matter what Kent does beforehand, because the guy's obviously got the potential to change games, and he works really hard for the team. So it doesn't really matter that he had an off game against St Johnstone; he'll still play. So I think it's time to give him a go, and if Roof is available, you keep him on the bench and have a bit of quality to bring off and change things.
What about for you, James? Does Itten finally get his start? I mean, he obviously loves it in North Lanarkshire, man, so it's the perfect setting for him.
Here's hoping, though. I think he will. I'm sure earlier in the season, last time when Morelos got banned, they did the kind of change between the two. He started Roof one game, Itten in the other. So yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see Itten come in against Hamilton. I think Roof was poor for me against St Johnstone anyway, so I think on performances alone, it's hard to argue that Itten's not done enough to merit a start, and it's hard to argue that Roof done enough on Wednesday, to merit starting again on Sunday. So yeah, I'd like to see him on the side, and I think given just the nature of how the game is at Hamilton usually, the classic pitch, the conditions, I think it's going to suit him just that wee bit more. It's going to suit Rangers having to play that wee bit more agriculturally, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, I keep championing him. Saying that he's going to start, he's going to do this, and writing stories about it, suggesting it, and that, and it never seems to happen. And I mean, I genuinely, when he makes substitute appearances, I'm genuinely impressed by him. I think that he's got a lot to offer. He looks quite mobile. He's got a good touch, a good link-up play, and he's got a mean strike on him as well. We've seen against Lech Poznan, so I just want to see more of him because I'm a fan. I want to see more of the players that we sign. I think it'd be interesting to see Scott Wright. I maybe throw a wee kind of left the field thing there and say Jack Simpson might be involved. I don't know. I think just because how desperate Gerrard was for him to get him in, and the interest from last season and everything, maybe they'll just throw him straight in, and for the reasons that you outlined about the defence, I think there was a time against Livingston last season when Hollander in particular didn't look great. I think the plastic surface maybe has a influence on his style of play, and maybe Balogun injuries, maybe this could be the game for it. I don't know how fit he is and stuff, but I don't know, maybe we left the field thing. I think he might make an appearance because I think he's the kind of player that Gerrard wants to get into the team straight away. But whatever the case, Rangers are going to be well stocked. I think that it's going to be very difficult for Hamilton to get in from this game, and it's not just a case of how clearly talented a lot of them Rangers players are and how well oiled we are. It's how kind of focused and determined we are. We don't show up for matches and appear to go through the motions. I think the only time that we've done that was against St Mirren, but for me that was a byproduct of too many changes. I think that the messaging from the backroom staff was essentially to be complacent because we changed so much. You know, it's a bit different. I just can't see us slipping up here. Obviously, I'll eat my words if I'm wrong, but I fancy us. So we'll move on to a score prediction here, Jordan. You've already said 4-0. Are you going to stick with that?
I'll stick with that. I'll go 4-0.
What about you, James?
Probably 3-0 Rangers. I can't see Hamilton scoring. I mean, you look at the defensive record this season, it's just incredible. So I expect that to continue. But 3-0 sounds good for me.
I've got match of 4-0. I think we won there once when Kent scored it. It was 4-1, rather. I don't know if it was 4-0 or 4-1, but I know I fancy us to comfortably win the match. And then we roll on, and then if we win that, I think it'll be 14 points in 5 games. So we are edging closer to the title. Is there anything else you want to add about this match?
No, don't think so. I think that's exhaustive.
I think that's us done, right? Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't liked the video and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so now. It helps us, and it'll make sure that the content that we're producing can be more entertaining and ultimately better for Rangers fans, the more kind of exposure that we get. So thank you so much for watching, and yes, we shall see you later in the week with more videos.